Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Adam Eisen Show. What a week it has been in the sports world. The first week of the NFL regular season has officially passed, and there's plenty to dissect from it. Despite a Packers loss, my excitement only continues to build for this year as we've got another 17 weeks of NFL regular season football in front of us. So let's go ahead, jump into it for today. I've got to address it. There's no running from it. There's no hiding from it. The Packers, they had a devastating loss. The fans, the organization, everybody suffered a devastating loss this past weekend to a division rival, the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. But I'm going to be the first one to tell you all that that game, week one, won't mean a thing. Now you could already hear people having a problem, having a complete meltdown with the Packers, the same way they did last year when they lost 38-3 against the New Orleans Saints in Jacksonville, opening up the season. People are having a complete meltdown over the Packers. And this is just like the rest of the week ones in Matt LaFleur's era. There has been a fall apart. Players don't play during the preseason. Teams still coming together. They have rookie wide receivers this season. This is to be expected. Rodgers, this year, he had 1 interception versus the Vikings. Last year, he had 2 interceptions on opening day versus the Saints. The Vikings obviously have an extremely talented roster, and they have had an extremely talented roster for, the last 8 years. It's just they had a defensive coach in place that didn't know how to put the right game plan. He didn't know how to instill the right game plan. The Vikings, they obviously have the talent, but this does not matter in the grand scheme of the NFC North, and I can promise you that. This is the Packers division. It's Aaron Rodgers' division, and it's like I said with the AFC West and the Chiefs. Until the Chiefs go and lose that division, there is no reason for me to crown anybody else. And to go crown anyone else other than the back-to-back MVP, I think's ridiculous. One day, we are going to get to a point where people are saying, wow, do you remember Christian Watkins' first career target? The drop touchdown pass, because that's how the game started for us. 75-yard drop touchdown pass from Christian Watson. One day people are going to be saying that. And for all you Packers fans out there, or just regular fans hating on our rookie receivers, Dobbs, Watson, I want you to remember Devontae, Scantling, Nelson, Jennings, all these guys, they drop balls a lot early in their career. The Packers, they become professionals at finding people in later rounds or undrafted free agents at the wide receiver position. If the Packers, if Aaron Rodgers, if they have faith in Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson, there is no reason for us to doubt them. Last year, the 2 number 1 seeds heading into the playoffs, the Green Bay Packers and the Tennessee Titans, they lost by a combined 76-16 in week 1 of last year. That's just to prove how little week 1 matters in the grand scheme of things. People, this was not a must-win all game. Packers did not have to have this. People are getting on Rodgers about not conforming to the rookie wide receivers, but he has never conformed before. He has always made the players that play with him elevate to his skill level. That's why the Packers have had so many successful receivers between the Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers era. There's Hall of Fame level quarterbacks there to teach him, and you got to do it the Hall of Fame level quarterback way. Guys like Jordy, guys like Greg Jennings, guys like Tay, guys like Cobb, they wouldn't have made it. Aaron Rodgers brought them along. They learned his game. And we saw guys like Cobb and Nelson go to Oakland and Houston and didn't have nearly as successful of a time. This is the Packers' way. This is a Hall of Fame quarterback's way. For all the analysts out there getting on Rodgers for coming after his rookie receivers in press conferences and saying they need to get with the program, that's what he needs to be saying, because they need to get with the program. It has to happen. They have to find the skill. They do. Skills there at quarterback. Wide receivers going to catch up, especially with a Hall of Fame quarterback. Watson, Dobbs, they have to elevate themselves and they have to pull together, and I believe they will. It's only week 1. I'm going to say this a lot throughout the show today. It's only week 1, everybody. There is going to be a big bounce back from the Packers against the Bears. Aaron Rodgers always plays good against Chicago. There's no reason to start jumping ship, hopping overboard, doing whatever on the Packers boat. Because it's going to keep sailing, and it's sailing right into the playoffs as an NFC North championship. Lock it in. Going to the team the Packers are playing this week, and the Chicago Bears last week played the San Francisco 49ers. And I already have heard analysts talking about Jimmy G, and I am one of those analysts talking about Jimmy G. Now, 49ers, they lost last week in a 19-10 upset. The Bears beat them. It was in Chicago. And this story with San Francisco, it has been building now for ever since halfway through last season with Trey Lance. I've been talking about it for longer than that. Granted, the weather was awful in this game. If anyone watched, it was a literal slip and slide in Chicago. But Trey Lance could not do a damn thing except run the ball, and he looked raw. Just like we were saying last week, Trey Lance looks raw. And there are already commentators. I heard it right when the game ended. I forget who said it, but they said, you got to think. Players, they like Jimmy G. They've got him to a Super Bowl before. And you've got Jimmy G just sitting in your locker room not playing any snaps for you. This locker room knows Jimmy G. It's taking him to a Super Bowl, an NFC Championship game, and he has been close to winning both of those games. Trey Lance was driving a Maserati out on that field with the San Francisco 49ers. We talked about it. 49ers are loaded. They have one of the best head coaches in the NFL. They have one of the best teams in the NFL compared to the Bears, who I don't like their head coach. They have no offensive weapons, and they're a black and white team in a digital world. Trey Lance was driving a Maserati on Sunday, while Fields drove a Civic, and Justin Fields won. Justin Fields on Sunday was making something constantly out of nothing. I had a segment on this show a couple weeks ago, basically stating how the Bears were doing Justin Fields dirty. It's titled Black and White Teams in Digital World, if you want to go listen to it. Basically, the Bears, they're stuck in their 1985 ways, stuck in Ditka, stuck in defense wins championships, and Justin Fields said that doesn't mean a damn thing to me. Went out there, proved himself, balled with no offensive weapons in the pouring down rain. Considering his offensive line being manhandled the whole time and no offensive weapons, Fields made something out of nothing and beat one of the best overall rosters and best coach in the NFL, in my opinion. Now, the Bears, they still need to do a lot this season. I've gone over trades, things like that they should look at. They need to get more help on the offensive side of the ball. But they finally have someone here in Justin Fields. If I say to you, name me the best Bears quarterback and wide receiver ever, you can't do it. You can't name me anyone notable. The Bears, they finally hit on something. And now it's their job not to go blow it all up before Fields' rookie deal is done. Going to another meltdown, transitioning from the 49ers meltdown to a different meltdown. It's over in the AFC North. It's not the Ravens. It's not the Browns. It's who you guys would suspect. Not the Steelers. It's the Bengals. Now, Joe Burrow, he had 4 interceptions this past week. He had 5 turnovers. And in my opinion, he was way, way, way too aggressive overall. The first quarter, Burrow came out there. He was not looking at checkdowns. He was not looking at simple slants or screens or curl routes or anything. He wanted the big ball, the big bomb on every single play. And this, in my opinion, is exactly what happens when you lose the Super Bowl in all your life you have won. Joe Burrow, I read this past week, this is his first time ever going below 500 in his career. Joe Burrow is a winning guy. Actually, that's not true. I did not read that earlier this week. Joe Burrow is a guy who won state championship in high school, won state championship in college, won national championship in college. He's gotten to a Super Bowl. He's done everything. It's Joey B. Joey Burr. Everybody in the nation loves him. And he's trying to go back out there, sling it. The offseason, there has been so much talk around his name. He's been in headlines. He's appeared with Jack Harlow. He's going out there, and he's trying to force big plays, force the spontaneous, magical moments in the game. This is the same problem that we saw with Patrick Mahomes last year. He's gone through this a couple times. Patrick Mahomes, he has thought he had to do it all himself. He thought the big plays were the only way they could win. He wouldn't go and execute a drive that was 12, 14, 16 plays long that impress guys like me. Burrow, he went out there this past weekend, 4 interceptions, 5 turnovers overall, and tried to force the ball where it wasn't there. This should have been an easy win for the Bengals. Now, they're going to get back on track, don't get me wrong. I think the Bengals will be perfectly fine this week. But they had to go take a look at themselves in the mirror this past week, because a loss to the Steelers and Mitchell Trubisky is just not good. And I still stand behind what I said about Mitch and Kenny Pickett. The Steelers, they have a great team, but Trubisky, overall, we saw it in this past game. He is too limited with a really, 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 really low ceiling. They have to tailor the game plan exactly to him. And that's just not strategic. Joe Burrow had his worst game since being a professional football player. And the Steelers still barely won after many missed field goals by the Bengals. This is my point with the Steelers. You just gotta rip the Band-Aids off. You're never gonna find a rookie quarterback more comfortable. 3 years in this stadium already. 3 years as a starter. He didn't have to move. He knows this system. You're not going to be competitive with anyone if you're relying on guys to play the worst game of football they ever have every time you play them. It's not possible. Their D-line is the Steelers' only highlight, and it's already getting banged up. It can't be the case. And the more you prolong substituting Mitchell Trubisky out for Kenny Pickett, is the more they are going to suffer. Because this upcoming QB draft class, like I said, 5 to 6 QBs will be drafted in the first round. The Steelers do not want to miss out on that if Kenny Pickett is not a guy. Let me tell you guys about a guy, though, that I think is really going to have a big, big year. His name, one you wouldn't expect to come out of my mouth, it's Jameis Winston down in New Orleans. And this past week they were playing the Atlanta Falcons. I watched almost the whole game. And Jameis Winston, he led a massive comeback. The Falcons blew another double-digit fourth-quarter lead. And Jameis Winston, I'm just saying it, him and Justin Herbert, which we will get to, they've got that dog in them. Atlanta, they had a double-digit fourth-quarter lead. Marcus Mariota was impressing the hell out of me. He showed he isn't going to let the Falcons just tank this whole season away. But Jameis Winston, that didn't matter to him. He was a little banged up. He said after the game, they asked him what hurt, and he went, oh, yeah, it all hurts. Pain all around. Typical tweaker Jameis Winston fashion. But this is a talented roster. Everybody last year forgot just how good Michael Thomas is. And then Jarvis Landry is fitting in perfectly. He was overshadowed in Cleveland. He had the whole Baker thing. You have two A1 receivers, in my opinion. You've got Jameis Winston, who has everything behind him right now. He had a great 5 weeks last year until he got hurt. If he stays healthy, everybody, I want you to hear me say this now, because I'm going to be replaying it for you in about 4 to 5 months' time. If Jameis Winston stays healthy, he is going to be in the MVP conversation. Not saying Jameis Winston's going to win MVP, but if he stays healthy, come the first week of February, Jameis Winston is going to be one of the few guys we are debating that could possibly win MVP. And I would love to see it. Moving on, next team. I've got a big segment here. It's about America's team. It's about a team I love to rip on. The Dallas Cowboys and their repeated problems. I'm sure you all have seen the headlines. Just like Dallas, just like Jerry loves to do. Pump stories, pump headlines, make sure everybody sees what's happening with the team. Dak Prescott is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, and he will need surgery. I'm pretty sure he's already gotten his surgery done. Be out 6 to 8 weeks. They got Cooper Rush at backup quarterback. I do not like the face of this franchise, where it's going at all. This last game, they had another game in double-digit penalties. They had 10 penalties, and I had a whole segment this offseason about Dallas's penalty problem. They were averaging 14 penalties a game last year. They had, was it 9 games, 10 games where it was double-digit penalties? We've had this convo before. Last year, they had the most in the NFL at 127 penalties. And it's the new year. They've had months to get it worked out, and it is the same problem. And we are looking at only one guy who is the cause of it, and that is Mike flippin' McCarthy. And now, like I had a segment about him last week too. What we have here in Dallas, we have a bad head coach, and they had a QB that has not proved himself yet. Now what they have is a bad head coach that still has a penalty problem, and Cooper Rush, a QB, a way worse quarterback than Dak Prescott. Not to mention, at this point, we legitimately have to look at Dak's career after last year and say, Dak Prescott, he's kind of injury prone. The next contract he goes to sign, especially if he gets injured again before it, people are definitely going to be talking about him being injury prone. People were skeptical about signing him to a big deal, and this is exactly why, the injuries. And this, it all ties back to the old man. It all ties back to Jerry Jones. He said a couple weeks ago, 1 + 1 = 3. That's an analogy, in case you didn't get it. It's for false optimism. That's all Jerry Jones has. Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott did not equal 3. Mike McCarthy and Cooper Rush don't even equal 2. Their weapons are worse. Their QB's worse. Their offensive line is worse. It's a meltdown in Dallas. And let's stop the excuses with Dak. I'm over it. I'm over all the excuses. That's all anyone has given him for years. You are paying this guy $40 million a year to be injury prone. Brady has had to go on the road at 45 years old with a new head coach, offensive line issues, and he does his job. This is just like what I said last week. It's not like Dak Prescott got hurt in the first quarter either. Dak Prescott got hurt late in the game, and they still only got 3 points. Chris Godwin's hurt. They're on the road. It's a new coach. The offensive line's a mess. Messed up protection. No Gronk. No AB. And Brady looked great. Stop making excuses and having false optimism. It's ridiculous. They're paying Dak Prescott $40 million a year. Make your plays, dude. This was the classic why we pay you the big bucks game. Week 1 versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady, a rematch of last year. This is why we pay you the big bucks. And all they got was 3 points. Justin Fields, he had a bad O-line. He had no weapons. He had a new head coach. And oh yeah, he plays for the Chicago Bears. And was playing against Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers and that team. And Justin Fields went out and did his job this past week. Tom Brady at 45 years old went out and did his job this past week. So I'm done with excuses for Dak Prescott because I have not seen him do his job since his rookie year. He has not gotten paid what he is paid to do since his rookie year. And a $40 million contract for him is ridiculous. A couple more topics for you, Dave, before we get to the bets of the week and then get out of here. I want to talk about Arizona versus Kansas City just a little bit before we get to the Monday night game. Like I said this all off season, Arizona, it's just too damn noisy. Kyler Murray, they have the contract talks. They have Marquise Brown there too. We know he's a noisy wide receiver. Whenever he's not getting the targets that he wants, he's noisy. In this game, it wasn't even a contest. I believe final score was 42-22, 44-22, something like that. Patrick Mahomes had 360 yards, 5 tutties. Kyler didn't necessarily have a bad game, but this is what I'm saying with Arizona. I don't like what they have set themselves up for this season. They're 500 teams since Cliff Kingsbury has come into this league, and he came in with Kyler Murray. That's his guy. He drafted him. I don't like the mediocrity they had in week 1. And I think it shows what the rest of the season could be for them. There are 500 teams since Cliff Kingsbury came in. And 500 team is exactly how they played. They played decent, but nowhere near Kansas City's level, which we know is what everybody has to compete with. Arizona, I don't see them having a shot at winning the NFC West. This is still the Rams division in my professional opinion. In my opinion, this is going to be the Rams division. I had a segment on it last week. They're just too talented and they know how to buckle down. In Arizona, for the last 3 years, we've seen they don't know how to buckle down. Mid-season, they fall apart. And if they can't even get wins at the beginning of the season, there's no reason why I should bet on them or tell you all that they're going to make the playoffs. Next teams I want to talk about, we had a big rematch. Not a big rematch, but I guess it's a big coming home party that we had on Monday night. And it was for Russell Wilson. He went back home, went to Seattle, place he played for 10 years. And I think everybody has seen at this point what happened at the end of that game. There was a complete timeout disaster, complete clock mismanagement by Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett, and then there was even more rookie mistakes by Nathaniel Hackett. Hackett's a guy that I really like. He came out of Green Bay. He was our offensive coordinator for years, and my biggest problem with this is if you're paying a quarterback $256 million, why won't you go risk it on 4th and 5 to win a ball game? Instead, you're going to go for the second longest kick in NFL history at 64 yards. Brandon McManus has not made that kick in years. For 10 years, Russ was magical at the end of games. And Monday night, he was lost. When you have a guy who has done great things for 10 years, and then he goes and gets a new boss. If that guy who was doing great stuff for 10 years starts doing bad, is it his fault or is it the new boss's fault? It's been 6 years since Brandon McManus made that kick. This is not Russell Wilson's fault. This is a complete coaching meltdown by Nathaniel Hackett. The thing that has really bothered me this entire week about it as well is how little urgency there was from the offensive huddle, from the Denver sideline, from the Denver coaches. There's a big difference between panic and between urgency. And there was no urgency on that sideline. Russell Wilson did not step up and have his Joe Montana Super Bowl moment. He didn't calm everybody down. He didn't have any urgency about him. He should have never allowed it to get to that 4th and 5 situation, but he did. And the fact that Nathaniel Hackett would not give his $256 million quarterback a chance with the ball is ridiculous. And I guarantee everybody that that is not going to happen again this season. Nathaniel Hackett has learned his lesson. That's for sure. Last thing before we get to the bets for today and then get out of here. Kansas City versus the Chargers. This happened last night. Oh my God, what a game. It ended 27 to 24. The game began. It was back and forth. So it went 7-7, then 10-7. Chargers were up, then Chargers get a touchdown. It was 17-7, and it seemed like the Chargers had a good control on the game. Slowly, the Chiefs, they started creeping themselves back into the ball game, field goal. Then they got a touchdown. All of a sudden, we're tied up 17-17 leading into the fourth quarter. And Justin Herbert makes an absolutely fatal mistake. He throws a pick six, 99-yard pick six to a guy, I saw a sweet story today, guy who was working Wendy's 3 years ago trying to figure out how to continue his NFL career. That's who picked off Justin Herbert last night and ran it back 99 yards. Chiefs ended up going up at that point 24-17, then went up 27-17. Justin Herbert led a great drive, but there was not enough time left on the board for them to catch up fully. The Chargers just got down way too big in the fourth quarter. They were down by 10 points, 27-17. But the biggest thing I got to take away from here is, obviously, it's a big win for the Chiefs. But Justin Herbert, my God, is he a dog. If you all didn't see what happened, there was about 3 minutes, 50 seconds left in the game, probably. Chargers were down 10, 50-yard line. Justin Herbert takes a huge hit. He goes down for 90 seconds, 2 minutes, didn't move. Comes off the field, Chase Daniels comes in, he does one play. Justin Herbert comes back out onto the field, hardly able to move. First 2 downs, didn't get much. They got it up to 3rd and 1. 3rd down, Justin Fields takes the snap, shotgun formation, drops back. He rolls to his right. Justin Herbert is able to roll right and run for the first down. He instead has to throw the ball into the ground because it hurt him too bad to run. That's how much pain he was in with his ribs. And then on the next play, on 4th down, when it mattered most, Justin Herbert came back out and threw a 45-yard pass to set them up for a touchdown. Absolute dart into double coverage. Justin Herbert was a complete dog last night, and I don't like it. He earned a lot of respect out of me, don't get me wrong. But this was not a must-win game for them. It was too big of a risk. He had another 4 downs there in the red zone. They didn't score the touchdown until 4th and goal. The amount of plays Justin Herbert there had to get more injured was insane. And having that risk, I understand it's a football game. These guys are alpha competitors. They're hyper competitive. Justin Herbert, he's a big boy. I'm sorry I keep saying Justin Fields. We got 2 Justins in this episode. Justin Herbert, he's a big guy. He's a dog. But that was an unnecessary risk for the Chargers. It was a great game overall. The Chiefs are who I expected to win. The Chargers, I expected the Chiefs to win. The Chargers, they ended up winning. The Chiefs, and I'm sorry, I just got completely mixed up there. The Chiefs ended up winning. That's who I thought was going to win. I'm not surprised that's the way they ended up folding. The game was in Arrowhead. It's just what happens. And the last topic I have for you all today before we get out of here, it's going to be next week's games and best bets and the don't bets and all that. The Rams the Los Angeles Rams versus the Atlanta Falcons. This is one of my money line picks for you all for the week. The Los Angeles Rams, that's just going to be the lock of the week. Marcus Mariota impressed the hell out of me last week. He showed that he is not going to let the Atlanta Falcons just tank this season away. But the Rams, they lost their opening game. They're hungry. They're mad. And they have too talented of a roster to start out 0-2 after not a single team last year made the playoffs after starting 0-2. Next team I want to pick is Denver Broncos over the Houston Texans. Denver, just like the Los Angeles Rams, they have way too talented a roster. They're going to be pissed off. Houston is a weak team. Already got lucky tying Indianapolis this past week. So hammer the Rams, hammer the Broncos, and the last team, I gotta pick them, even though I hate picking my team, the Green Bay Packers over the Chicago Bears. It's Lambeau Field's opening night. Green Bay beats Chicago nonstop. Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears. Simple as that. They're pissed off after last week. We've got too good of a roster. The Packers, the Rams, and the Broncos are my 3 money line picks for you. And my don't bet for anyone who's in survivor pools and is trying to be a little tricky this week, do not take the 49ers over the Seattle Seahawks. I don't care that it's in San Francisco. Geno Smith has hardly played any football in 8 years. We don't know what we're going to get out of him. Anything could come out on that football field. And always remember the saying, any given Sunday. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another edition of the Adam Eisen Show. Week 2 of the NFL season is officially underway. We've got about 48 hours until NFL Sunday kickoff, 1 o'clock. You're not going to want to miss it. Don't miss out on any of the college games this weekend either. I will be back to see you all here next week and react to it all. Until then, peace.